My name is Zach, and you're listening to The Creator's Cove, where I dig into the process and passion of creators. And this week's creator is Mike Montali, the lead singer of the band Hollis Brown from Queens, New York.
My name is Mike Montali. I'm the singer for the rock and roll band Hollis Brown out of Queens, New York City.
Mike, just so you know, one of the things we like to do on the show is we like to discover new things, from podcasts to news stories or cool new facts, and I really like to discover new music for people. I actually discovered Hollis Brown through my Spotify Discover playlist, and hilariously, the week after I discovered you guys and started talking to your management, I took a trip to Nashville, and I found a copy of your limited release EP, Cluster of Pearls, in the Starburst vinyl.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And It was just at a used bookstore. But I found you guys through Discovery playlist, and I listened to a lot of your stuff and became fans, and I'd just like to pick your brain a little bit.
Sweet, man. Yeah, thanks for discovering and being hungry to find new music. You know, it's something that I've always loved doing myself, is trying to discover new sounds and new musicians that you might not have heard of before.
That's actually kind of a great segue into, I'd love to hear how you discover music. I feel like we live in the golden age of content creation, but there's so much that sometimes it's hard to discover things that resonate with you. So how do you go about discovering new stuff?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think that there's so much stuff being created easily with social media at our fingertips. And I discover stuff through so many different ways because our band tours so much. And we get to play with a lot of different musicians. Sometimes we're opening for them. Sometimes they're opening for us. Sometimes we playing festivals and we get to hang out the whole day and watch all the bands. So oftentimes I'll see a band live through us playing that I like and then go check them out. And other times it's through people telling me, hey, you got to hear this new whatever, and so I'll check it out through word of mouth, and oftentimes it's through social media engagement like Spotify, and I use Apple Music as well, so I have them all. So anything that gets recommended to me, I usually once a week try and just find and discover something new. I don't always like it, but I'm always looking for it, And I think that there's so much.
I feel like that goes with the territory a little bit.
And I think there's so much good music that's being made. It's not necessarily the commercial music of the day, but there are a lot of bands and a lot of musicians out there that are doing really good stuff. And oftentimes, I've always been a fan of more of the underground scene and stuff that's maybe counterculture. That's just my taste, and I come from like an indie background, but there's a lot of good stuff being made out there. Just got to kind of find it, and there's so many different ways to find them too.
Is there anything off the top of your head, like recent discoveries that you just heard and you were like, okay, I need to check out this band's catalog?
Yeah, there was a band called Balin that I just heard that I thought had really good harmonies that I really liked. Man, there's a bunch of bands. There's a band called Larkin Poe. That's a pretty cool blues-based band. There's a band that we're touring with called Vintage Trouble. We're doing a tour starting at the end of November. We're playing with them all around the country. They're really cool. Yeah, they're called Vintage Trouble. There's a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I kind of lean more toward like the bluesy rock and roll stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I recently just put together a Discovery playlist of all the bands I've featured on the show so far, and I definitely, after listening to it at least, I lean towards rock. Definitely a lot of psychedelic stuff, and I guess you call it alt rock too. And it really ends up being, I just like rock, and I like it as a genre, and I like all the subgenres too.
Yeah, and rock can go in so many ways, and I think that it's sad because the genre isn't really represented in mainstream music, but there's so much cool stuff happening in the genre, and there's a lot of great. It seems like it's almost moved into the live touring place in the culture today, as opposed to, they don't even like fucking put the Grammy Award for Rock Album of the Year on TV anymore. So it's kind of weird,
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel it's underrepresented in how diverse it is. It's only one thing or nothing, but I do feel like the internet is breaking that up a little bit, it's giving people access to a lot of stuff, but it's not through the traditional channels. So we're trying to catch up a little bit.
Definitely, and that's kind of exciting too, because even for a band like us, we have been able to reach so many different people all around the world. We have people from different countries and culture just randomly engaging with us on social media that we never would have had that opportunity before. So I think it can be a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also be a distraction.
So I read on basically anything you read about you guys is that you're named after a Bob Dylan song called The Ballad of Hollis Brown. Is that your favorite Bob Dylan song, or did you just think it would be a great band name?
Favorite is a strong word. He's got so many songs. He's
I know,
like
hard.
my main hero, so it's kind of like hard to pick one tune. We use that song as the band name because we figured it gave us an identity as one cohesive unit versus a group of individuals, and we were trying to kick around band names for weeks, it seemed like, and we couldn't come up with anything. And then we saw the Rolling Stones pick their name from a Muddy Waters song. And so we said, okay, who's an artist that we can collectively all say, this is where we're at. And we love great songwriting. I think that's what binds us together as musicians. We have a lot of different tastes personally in music and art and style, but together we all love great songs. So I think Bob Dylan is the king of that. And so we wanted to pick a Dylan song, and that seemed like the natural fit because we always say we're a band, not a man.
Sure. Okay. That is awesome. I also read that you and John were friends in high school and were songwriting in high school as well.
We did it. Well, no, we met in high school, and we were in different kind of scenes. We both were playing guitar around that time, and we both wanted to be in bands and stuff. But we didn't really start writing together until after high school. Probably like sophomore year of college is when we started getting together and just hanging out and writing songs. And after we had written over the course of a few years of just writing, and we decided, okay, maybe we got something here. We can try and start playing it live, and kind of stemmed from that.
Yeah, so you just kind of found the other instruments for the band, and Hollis Brown was born?
Yeah, it kind of happened really organically. We just got together and we just hung out and started writing, and we did that for a few years. And then we started playing, putting feelers out and playing with friends in New York City in the club scene, and did that for a couple years. And then we said, okay, let's put a solid lineup together and really try and get out there and tour and do the thing, the way we always dreamed of doing it. And so we met like-minded people who, it's a lot of work to be in a rock and roll touring working band. So it took a little while, but we found the right people who really wanted to do it and had the same vision. And then from there we started, did a few years of doing, okay, we're going to do New York and Philly and reaching out in our area. And after, 6 years now of playing out heavily, we've gotten to do, I think, this year we're doing about 100 shows all around the U.S. and all around Europe and Canada. So it's been growing.
Yeah, I definitely saw you guys are on tour a lot.
Yeah.
Do you think starting playing different clubs and starting with live music as the foundation of the band just stayed with you guys the whole way?
Yeah, I think for us, that for us it worked that way. It's different for everybody, but we always wanted to be the type of band that had prolific touring and live shows, as well as records that people listen to at home. Kind of like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, or a band like that had, you hear some bands who only have either or, and we always wanted to try and have both, because all of our favorite bands, bands like the Rolling Stones, they're still on tour. They don't have to be, and so that always intrigued us, is being able to get on the road and play live for the people, but also caring about the recording process.
Absolutely. When you were just starting playing clubs in New York, do you remember like a moment where you kind of started to feel like, okay, this is really starting to happen for us?
Yeah, I think, we kind of really have done everything the old-fashioned way, and we started playing Sunday nights underage, just sneaking in, trying to get a set time, and then, eventually it became that we were playing weekends, and we were playing packed shows. And I think in 2015, when we put our second record out, Adam Duritz from the Counting Crows came to see us live and asked us to support them on their entire tour. And kind of once that happened, I think everyone in the band felt like, okay, we must be doing something right to be doing this caliber of touring and impressing these kind of people.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. That's
I think
incredible.
that was kind of the moment where we had some validity to it. You know, it wasn't just like, oh, we're kind of made it. We made one or two indie records and we've been touring and going hard, but you know, we got like kind of a great acknowledgement there. And I think that was a moment that made us believe we could really keep doing this as a career.
Yeah, that's amazing. I also read that you recorded the album right on a train in just 10 days. So I'm assuming that while you're on tour, while you're on the road, you have a lot of time to work on the songwriting and things like that. So I'd love to know a little more about your process and how you start to put together an album and start working on songwriting.
Yeah, it's always been different. And the first album we made was Ride on the Train, and that was the collection of songs that me and John had been writing for probably 3 or 4 years leading up to that. Because we did that in 2013, it came out, and which is our first record 6 years ago. It doesn't seem like it, but it's been a while. And then we did that based on just the writing our entire catalog up till then. So that was a little different because we had so many songs to choose from. And then we hit the road pretty heavily to support it. And we had created another group of songs in 2015 that we made our second album called Three Shots. And that's when the Counting Crows kind of picked us up. And then our new album, Ozone Park, which is our third album of original songs, we also did in 10 days. We kind of like to record quick and not labor too much and ruin kind of the magic of just the raw live performance of it. But the songwriting is always different. You know, usually we sit down and we have a bunch of ideas. Maybe they're finished, maybe they're not finished, maybe it's a riff, maybe it's a whole song. And then from there, we carve out some time with the band where we can get a month or two and we just rehearse and we just kick around these ideas with them and we see what do we all like collectively, you know, because like I said, individually, I might want to record these songs, or so and so, John might want to record these songs, but together we kind of decide, all right, these songs are kind of where we're all at. And then we really flesh those out in the rehearsal room together. Just like, okay, let's add a bridge here. Maybe this chord could be this instead. Oh, let's do this. And then when we have that to where we kind of like it amongst ourselves, then we go into the studio and we kind of just get with our producer and engineer and just bang it out, you know. But it's a lot of just time in the room together, I'd say.
Yeah, it seems like that collaborative type effort would make a really interesting type of collective vibe on it. I listened to basically the whole catalog. I've listened to a lot of the stuff you guys have put out now. You can see the through lines of how it all ties together and how it's all Hollis Brown. But then there's Ozone Park. And it's like you get to go on almost an adventure through different influences. There's a lot of different elements, like it's bluesy sometimes. There's some folky type elements. And then sometimes, like on Forever and Me, there's heavy synth stuff and electronic drums and things like that. How do you guys go about incorporating cool elements and also staying true to who you are?
Well, I think that's important, is trying to stay true. You know, like I said, we're from New York. I grew up in Queens with John, and you know, it's so diverse here, and there's so many different types of people and food and music. So we were kind of, you know, exposed to a lot of different music growing up, from hip hop to funk to R&B to rock and roll to blues to whatever, you know, folk music, you know, I mean, the big folks, New York kind of has everything. So we've been able to have our ear on all of that. And that's probably why there is diversity in the record. But I think it's just following our instincts and sometimes letting ourselves get out of our comfort zone, you know, like Forever in Me is a song off of the new record that wasn't so natural for us. It was actually the first time we ever did experiment with electronic drums and heavy synth like that, and we just followed it, and we just wanted to do something a little different. And it was important for us, especially on this new album, to make rock and roll seem relevant. You know, you watch a lot of bands, you hear a lot of bands, and we were talking about it earlier that it's kind of like considered an older throwback genre. Once you say you're a rock band, everybody thinks of the music of 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. They don't necessarily think of the music of today. And we wanted to say, how can we make rock and roll 2019 edition, you know? And so that required us kind of moving the goalpost a little bit with some synth and some modern recording tactics. And, you know, hopefully
Yeah,
we
I
pulled it off.
absolutely love the new record, and I think that all of the different styles and elements in there really make it interesting. Because I completely agree with you. A lot of times, people, it's almost like an homage to someone they appreciate. But Hollis Brown feels less like that, and more like this is our type of music. We make it, and it varies, it changes, but it's not just playing our favorite songs with a different layer on it.
Yeah, and I think this is probably the first time in the 6 years of making records and touring that we've kind of found that sound. You know, it takes bands a little longer, I think, than solo artists or than electronic artists or whatever. Like, I think this is the first time that we're really exploring a unique sound that's just us and that nobody else is really doing, and that's kind of what's exciting about it right now.
Is everybody in the band still just as excited to go on the road? You know, because you guys started playing live shows, you've toured constantly with amazing people. Is it still something you're fired up about? Like it's going to be live shows for the next couple months here?
Yeah, we got a big tour coming up, and yeah, everybody's excited. You know, it's kind of touring too much can really suck the creative life force out of you, and it can become, like most people who get into playing music, we kind of do it because we don't want to get a job. We don't mind working because you have to work at something and creativity and stuff is work, but we don't want to have a job. And sometimes when you're just touring endlessly, it can feel that way. You know, it's monotonous. It's kind of just so we're kind of careful to feel the vibe of when we're getting a little jaded by the road, which happens to everybody. Just take a little step back, regather. Because that way, when you get back out there, you have a purpose and you want to be out there, and not you feel you're forced to be out there. So I think there's a balance that's definitely necessary when it comes to touring.
Yeah, I can definitely see how easy it is to get jaded when you're out there for that amount of time and everything. That's really great. So you have a tour coming up here in the next month or so, and you said 100 stops?
Yeah, well, that was 2019. By the end of it, I've played about 100 gigs supporting the new album, Ozone Park. And then starting in 2020, we've got some stuff lined up in January, a couple of shows, one in Nashville. We're doing something called the Light of Day Festival in the Northeast, which is a big charity that they do down in Asbury Park every year. And we're doing something in Annapolis, Maryland. So we'll probably be in the region for January, but we're just kicking off on the 24th of November. We're doing a full run of the whole country pretty much from New York all the way down out to California. So that's going to be incredible.
Yeah, that's amazing. So when you're out on the road, I have to ask because our show is we try to do like a book club for podcasts. We try to discover new podcasts and tell people about them. So I'm just curious, do you guys listen to any podcasts?
Not together. It's kind of weird. We listen to more music together and we play like weird games together in the van, but we don't really listen to podcasts together. But I listen to Joe Rogan a lot. I listen to, not that that's like a discovery since it's like the most popular one.
Sure. He's a big one for sure.
Yeah, I think he's really impressive with his guests and his outlook on life. I listen to him. I listen to the Bill Burr one. I listen to Mark Maron. Yeah, those three alone take up probably 7 hours of the day. So.
Yeah, I can believe it because Joe Rogan does go on like 3 hours. They're like 3 hour episodes. It's serious, and not many people can pull that off.
Yeah, I try and get through them, but my attention span sometimes doesn't get me to 3 hours. I'm more of a music head anyway. Honestly, I try and I'd like to take that time to either in the van, try and write something or find new music that way.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you. I listen to music the vast majority of my day. Is there a band or an album that you know that if everybody's on the road together, even though everyone has different tastes, if you put this album on, everyone's going to be stoked for it?
Oh, our band, you mean?
Yeah.
Um, Probably Ziggy Stardust is definitely one of those albums.
Okay, sure.
We did the Velvet Underground Gets Loaded as a tribute. That's always a record that everybody loves in the band. Otis Redding is a big
Classic.
2 thumbs up for everybody. You know, the second we start playing anything Motown, anything Stax, people love that. Stevie Wonder. Yeah, maybe What's Going On, the Marvin Gaye record, What's Going On, that's another one that everybody loves.
That's great.
Yeah, man, everybody loves that.
Well, it sounds like maybe part of the reason I like you guys' music so much is because you like the music that I like. It just plays out that way sometimes.
There you go. Yeah, it's important. It's important. I think taste is very important, especially anybody can learn if you put enough time on your instrument. You can learn how to play a million scales, or you could learn how to play faster than everybody else just by putting the work in. But taste is something that you can't really teach, and I think that that's very important in the artistic world, whether you're an actor or whether you're a musician or a writer or something. Like, the choices that you make based on what you like is what can separate you from everybody else.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Well, Mike, thank you so much for talking with me here for a little bit. Is there any other news you'd like to put out there that we haven't covered on about Hollis Brown and what's coming soon?
Yeah, I would just say check us out on social media for sure, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Hollis Brown Music, and come see us live. We got a lot of tour dates coming up, and the new album is Ozone Park. I think it's the best album that the band has ever made, and I think it's one of the best albums to come out in 2019, especially for rock music. So come on, check us out.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Ozone Park is a fantastic album, and everyone should check it out. Well, thanks so much, Mike. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Nice talking to you.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of The Creator's Cove and the featured creator, Mike from Hollis Brown. If you want to find out more about me, you can check out at the PDS Official or at Creators Cove Pod on Twitter. If you want to find out more about the band, you can go to hollisbrown.com to see tour dates, links to all of their socials, and keep up to date on the news about the band. Thanks again to Mike. He's a great guy, and he cares about the music he makes. And here's the newest single from Hollis Brown, Go For It. Keep discovering, and I hope you'll take another trip down to the Creator's Cove.
I want something else, gotta get that soon, yeah. The sun came up on the world today, but you slipped into noon. I'm out there come rain or shine, cause I got to get up on my grind. And now baby, I'm climbing high, I'm climbing, yeah, I gotta try.